this guy's wearing a wire. Well, at least it's not putting fluids through my body. Boy, oh boy, it gets hot down here in the summer, and all seasons. So today's movie was one that may or may not still be in theaters. I kind of took too long to get around to it because I figured I'd come out with another volume of Movie Pass. But I just canceled my Movie Pass subscription, so screw it. Whichever ones I had more to talk about, I'll do full reviews of. And the first of those is Blindspotting, that's what it's called. Starring Daveed Diggs, who may be a household name at this point. He won a Tony for his performance in Hamilton, but of course I always knew him first as a member of the crazy experimental harsh noise rap trio Clipping, who I actually saw in Queens, New York at Knockdown Center for their first New York appearance. I don't know if they've been back since, but it was a pretty cool performance, and he's an all-around pretty talented guy, so this is his first written and starring in film along with his friend Rafael Casale, I believe his name is. They both co-wrote and co-star in this movie as best friends living in
Oakland, man.
An Oakland story. Oakland is like a lot of other cities. Oakland, California.
Detroit or wherever it is, and yeah, it kind of goes from there. It's sort of about a lot of different things. It's about racial profiling and gentrification and income inequality. It tackles a lot of issues at once. Unfortunately, it pains me to say this, but I definitely didn't like it as much as I wanted to. I think it could have been done a lot better. I think there were sort of writing revisions that could have gone down. There's certain moments where you kind of feel like, oh, this is sort of heavy-handed writing, especially what the film ultimately builds up to, which is this sort of half-spoken, half-rapped section by Diggs, which it's like, it sort of reminds me of his rapping and clipping, where it's like there's so much talent behind it, and but it's just doesn't really add up to much at the end of the day. Then at the same time, a lot of the humor can be kind of obvious. There's still all this leftover, like, making fun of hipsters thing, which was so old so long ago, and like the stereotypical hipster who is actually the guy who ends up getting beat up, which is why Diggs' character was in jail or prison, whatever, in the first place. He's just kind of drawn like a personification of like an uninspired meme where it's like, "Ooh, I like to listen to swans and Kraftwerk." The basic story is Daveed Diggs and his friend, played by Rafael Casale. They've both had a pretty colored or checkered past. I shouldn't say colored. And Diggs' character is about 2 or 3 days away from finally being taken off a year's probation involving an incident which we don't see until about 2/3 of the way into the movie. Some kind of violent outburst from the two of them. And his friend's character really hasn't changed his ways much in that time, and is posing a threat in that he's kind of bringing the heat to the two of them, and you know, he obviously doesn't want to go back to jail, but he also wants to stand by his friend. But honestly, pretty early on you kind of see like, man, if this were in the real world, like, and he wasn't so hopelessly attached to his friend, he would have just dropped him like a hot potato, because he's annoying, and he reminds me of those like side buddy characters in those like 90s, early 2000s rom-coms, where it's like, it's the crazy best friend of the guy, and he's always really annoying and not funny. I mean, for instance, this movie kind of tries to tackle humor and melodrama at the same time. It's more towards the side of melodrama and seriousness, but when the humor comes in and out is at times inappropriate and at least kind of questionable. You know, you'll have a very serious scene and then a sort of silly scene following or preceding it, and you're sort of like, what am I supposed to feel here? Reminds me a little bit of Last House on the Left and The Chicken Lady. Now, the movie is quite decently well acted and shot. It does definitely capture a feeling of feeling Daveed Diggs' character's point of view throughout the movie. You really feel like you're walking through his shoes, and especially in moments where he's sort of being stalked by cop cars. That was genuinely anxiety-inducing. And certain moments of humor work, like there's an early on scene that's pretty funny where they're kind of hanging out in one of their friends' cars and they're just smoking blunts, and pulling guns from all different parts of the car, and then he gets an alert on his phone and goes, oops, I got an Uber pickup. This is an Uber? Yeah, this is an Uber. Well, it's not funny when I do it, but. And maybe it's a little obvious at times. There's an opening sequence where there's a split screen and there's an image of like impoverished black people juxtaposed with Whole Foods. It's like, all right, we get it. And even that opening sequence, it's kind of neat that there's this like split screen thing going on, but that never really comes back into the movie, and there's no real reason for that to be there in the first place other than it just kind of looks cool. The thing that out and out bothered me during this movie was this constantly reoccurring font that looks like straight up like Meme Generator 2008. It's just like the same exact font, and it'll say 3 days left of probation, 2 days left of probation. And there's no way anyone in the audience could not be following what's going on, because it'll say 3 days left of probation, and then 10 seconds goes by and he goes, well, just 3 days left of my probation, you better not fuck it up for me. So this was a good effort, not great. It felt a little bit jumbled, could have maybe done with a little bit of editing, or as I said, writing, revision. It's sometimes tough when it's somebody's first movie that they're writing and starring in. They kind of want to get a lot of ideas in, or they don't really want to compromise their vision so early out in the gate. But there are some things that are done well in this movie, but it's a little bit fledgling, and I don't know, there's a more mature, nuanced message in there somewhere, but I'm not really seeing it. I'm kind of just more excited to see what they do next, because although I didn't like this very much, it was still a promising outing, I would say. And I could also sit here and nitpick about other things that aren't as consequential, like, how does his friend keep getting away with all this stuff? I'll tell you why, Brian. White privilege! Or how the cop actually dealt with the murder that sort of sets off the whole... That's the main part of the movie, which I neglected to mention, is that Diggs witnesses a murder, and then he's sort of just waiting to be hunted down by cops, or sort of be blamed for the murder, or who knows what. He'll be the next to be executed. And then he finally confronts, at the end of the movie, the cop, who happens to be somebody living in a house that they are helping to move out because their main job is movers. That's definitely like a pretty easy coincidence. Whatever. Anyway, there could have been worse movies I saw, in the last month or so. Although I felt a little bit out of place when a trailer for a Tyler Perry movie came up. I was also the only one in the theater. Also, they ID'd me, and I'm 28 years old. I just, So with that, stay looking 18, stay sexy, and keep those hands up. I'm just kidding, it won't matter. Boom! Did I say stay sexy? Okay, good. Thanks a lot, guys. See ya out there.